on the great rabbis now inside the series that were the chief rabbis of Jerusalem, especially during the time period of the 16th century. So we haven't really spoken about many of those very, very early chief rabbis from Jerusalem, and we're concentrating on Rabbi Levi ibn Habib today. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the first, reported over the first chief rabbi. He happened to be of Jerusalem, reported over in the very, very early years. We're talking now back in the early 1500s, respectively. Now, it's reported over he was born in the English year 1480 and passed away. There's differing opinions when he passed away. Majority of opinions I see is 1545. So this year 1480 also was, let's just say, something I just need to also verify. But he would become the chief rabbi of Jerusalem. Very, very prominent position and first position at that stage in time. I think he was known under the acronym Hey Reish Lamed Bet Chet, or you can add the Mem beforehand, Mem Hey Reish Lamed Bet Chet, respectively, one of the great rabbis of Eretz Yisrael. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, it's reported over he was born inside a city called Smora. This was in Spain. Remember, this was before the Spanish expulsion that actually took place, I believe, in 1492. His father was a great rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov bin Habib, was one of the great rabbis of Spain of his time, and I think very much saw the expulsion from Spain in his area, and he was the author of the En Yaakov and various other great Torah works. And afterwards, I think the family would move to Portugal. So when he was a very young age, it's reported over, they would move. I think in the end, I think there will be later on an expulsion decree which was issued for Portugal in 1498, where eventually the family will now move to Saloniki. Remember, Saloniki had a really great Torah Jewish community of its day. It's reported over that the Portuguese forced many of the Jewish community to convert to outside of the religion of Judaism when they actually arrived over there. There was that forced conversion which was reported over. He would study in Salonika under great rabbanim, including the famous Rabbi Yitzchak Abu Hav, who was a great Talmudist rabbi, Kabbalah, Halacha, philosopher also. And we actually spoke about him. He was the author of the book called the Menarat HaMaor. So he would be studying under his auspices while he was in Salonika. And it's reported over that Rav Levi completed the printing of his father's famous work over there, called En Yaakov, respectively, over there. So much was achieved in this time period. Right? This was a book of Agada on the Talmud, respectively. Now, come what the year, I think it was 1513. It's reported over at that stage in time, they would move, I think, to Jerusalem over there. Remember, many people there was a Jewish community, especially in Israel. I think there was a huge amount of Jewish people in Sfat also at that point in time. And that's why we learn about the golden age of Kabbalah period of Tzfat, respective of many of the great rabbis, including the Rosh HaKadosh, Rav Chaim Vital, so on and so forth. I believe after a short time in Jerusalem, though, he would actually return to Salonika and would also spend time in Syria, in Aleppo, in Damascus, respectively. So he was very well traveled at that point in time. Now, come what the year, I think it was 1592, he would reach Tzfat and while being in Sfat, also learning Torah, he would then emigrate to Jerusalem, back and forth, so going from one holy city to the other, and was appointed the head of the community. I'm not sure if it was exactly in the year 1925 or not, but he'll become the head rabbi over there. That'll pretty much be a position he would take on till the end of his life. So we see the whole history of 500 years now of chief rabbis of Jerusalem, of Israel, respectively. You could argue that he was the first chief rabbi of Israel. It was spanning back from this 500 years. It was a huge achievement, huge, prestigious, and huge schot, huge merit for him. Now, it's actually interesting. He would have robust Torah discussions with other great rabbis, I think, including the famous Rabbi Yaakov ben Rav, who was one of the great rabbis of the land of Israel during the 16th century, who we actually spoke about in a previous video in of itself. Now, they would get into various debates with regards to various different subjects, especially with regards to the smicha, rabbinate, respectively. They will delve into those topics, how to go about smicha, so on and so forth, and many other important things. Now, he'd write many different great Torah writings, including the Shelot Shuvot, question and answers, which was a Perush foundation on Kiddush HaChodesh, on the blessing of the new month, and Mishnah Torah of the Rambam, respectively, and various other sermons he would delve in. Also in Kabbalah, astronomy. He was a grammarian, a grammar within the numerical values. He had really great time with him. Also, which we have to point out, including famous Rabbi Yisachar ben Mordechai ibn Suzan, who would also become, I believe, a chief rabbi of Jerusalem at a later stage, and one of the great rabbis in Sfat. Also, another rabbi we've mentioned about on various occasions before, Rav Moshe Castro, who was one of the sages of the land of Israel. Let's just say also one of the head rabbis in Jerusalem in the early parts of the 16th century, respectively. Rabbi Yaakov Castro, who would later on become the rabbi of Egypt. That would be one of his Talmudim. Very prestigious rabbi, author of many different great books. Another famous rabbi, Rabbi Shmuel de Medina, who was, I think, the rabbi of Salonika of Greece, respectively, and famous for various different responsorial works in of itself. Now, it's actually reported over that he might have passed away at different time periods, either 1541, 1545. I'm not too sure on the exact date which he actually passed away. There's, if someone knows, please confirm over there. And I think it was a time period where the Jewish community started to decline in Jerusalem at that point when the era when he passed away. And I think many people would actually have to return and travel mostly to Tzfat with regards to legal matters, Bet Din matters, respectively. But it was a time period where Jerusalem was, let's just say, the community itself might have been shrinking, but I'd have to double check on the statistics for that. But he was, let's just say, the first chief rabbi of Jerusalem, which was obviously a very, very great accolade for any rabbi to have. Yes, and we can add on a few more interesting things. I think at the point in time, let's just cast back to his period in Portugal when he was young. It's reported over the Portuguese, actually, I think King Manuel, if I'm not mistaken, in Portugal, tried to baptize other people that were coming from Spain to Portugal at that point in time. So many people will flee because of that reason to Salonico, where it will be more safe, much more safe for the Jewish community to obviously practice Judaism. It would have been in the year 1523, I see on another source, where he would go to Jerusalem and then return back to Salonico, and the permanent settling in Jerusalem would be back in 1525, where he got the accolade of the chief rabbi position over here. And there was that robust debate with regards to Rabbi, who I think Rabbi will actually be the chief rabbi of Tzfat. So there were two chief rabbis over the corresponding. There was a request of the ancient practice of the rabbinical ordination to be carried out, and that, let's just say, involved, much discussion between the rabbis, so on and so forth. And that I would recommend everyone to look back at the video of Rav Yaakov Beirav, where I think I did talk about that to some specific degree. We stated at the onset he was very knowledgeable when it came to mathematics and astronomy. I think in his youth he would edit his father's book, the En Yaakov, which we talked about before, a famous book in itself, I think, which was printed in 1516 in Turkey, in Constantinople. The Sheilot Shuvot was a collection of 147 responsa, which was absolutely phenomenal. There was a Kuntras HaSmicha, which was, let's just say, a whole book within regards to ordination. There's Perush Kiddush HaChodesh, which we mentioned about before, on the laws of the new month. I think really concentrating on the Hebrew calendar. I think in Maimonides' Code of Law, it's reported over. All this was printed, I think, in the year 1565. Much of it was, if I'm not mistaken, in Venice, in Italy. And the last named work was published separately, I think, between the years 1574 to 1576. Now, that would have been about 35 years after he passed away. So he was a very famous rabbi of that specific time. The report over he passed away around the year 1545. So we're talking about approximately 480 years ago from the time of recording, he passed away. So very interesting. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. Now, if you happen to descend from any of the great Chachamim we are speaking about in this series, please let me know. I would love to hear more information about them. If you feel anyone's interested in watching any of these videos, please share the videos to other people respectively over here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. We've covered nearly 900 plus videos of the great Mizrahi, Oriental, Spanish rabbis of yesteryear. So wishing you well here from the city of Bet Shemesh here in Israel. Take care and please subscribe, and wishing you well.